Urgot is one of the most unpopular and ugliest champions in League of Legends. He's been reworked, retuned, buffed a bunch of times, and yet his play rate rarely ever rises above 1%. But just because a champion is not popular does not necessarily mean the champion is bad. Looks can be deceiving, and Urgot is one of those cases. There are two Urgot mains in Challenger. One is in Korea and one is in EU West. They build the same items and use the same style. The reason that both of these players are in Challenger and other Urgot mains are not, it's because they use a simple yet unique mechanic that is able to increase Urgot's damage output by up to 50%. And this small yet effective mechanic is how they turn a mediocre champion like Urgot into a broken one. This is how to play like a Challenger.
Yeah, I'm Kamon. I'm an Urgot OTP in EU West, and I've reached Challenger for 2 seasons in a row now, hitting my peak at 750 LP. I've been playing Urgot for 3 seasons now. I've been a Renekton OTP before that. So Urgot is a different beast, basically. So he's a champion that a lot of people underestimate. He's not really meta, and especially high elo players don't really see him a lot. So they are really surprised by his tankiness, by his damage output, his 1v2 potential. There's just so much to this champ. So I would describe him as a melee bruiser. Although his auto attack range is ranged, he's playing as close to his enemy as possible. And yeah, just a 1v2 machine. Urgot is a champion that spikes with level 13 and just becomes a normal champion at level 9. So I want to reach that threshold as fast as possible. His laning phase is just absolutely terrible. You have to farm up in basically every matchup. There's some certain matchups like Maokai or other tanks that you can play aggressive in, but other than that, I don't really see how Urgot can win any lane. You just freeze in front of your turret, hope you don't get ganked, and survive laning phase as much as possible. Urgot's laning phase is terrible, but his level 1 is actually insanely strong. That's basically his only strong point in his laning phase. So there are only a couple of champions that can match this really. Get an advantage early on with this level 1 trick, just cheese in a bush. This chunk of damage is definitely enough so I can get to level 4 to level 5 without problem. There's a special tactic I'm doing. It's really soul crushing. Kayle, Renekton, and other melees that don't have movement abilities at level 1, you can just zone them out from XP at level 1. They just go absolutely crazy. They miss the 3 melees at level 1. You can not do anything. You have no counterplay against that because Urgot's level 1 is just so obnoxious. You are always guaranteed to get the slow push, and when your jungler has a brain, you just dive them at level 3. And they're just level 1. And I did that to Renekton. That's the only way to win this matchup, by the way. You have to do this level 1, otherwise you just lose. There's no one who does this in high elo. Whenever I do it, and I watch the replay, they're just spam pinging their jungler like, why are you doing this to me? Why can you play like this? I'm literally in front of the turret and I can't take melee experience. We just dive on level 3 and the game is over.
Because Urgot is ranged and because his early game is so strong, if his jungler is not going to come in and do the cheese gank, what he often does is he tries to set up a slow push towards the enemy tower, and he crashes 3 waves into the enemy tower to take an early cheater recall. It gives him another item to lane with, and it guarantees that he'll hit at least level 5 without issue. One of the most important things about top lane is minion wave management. If you shove the lane too early and too quickly, you're going to be susceptible to jungle ganks. Urgot has built-in wave clear and push with his legs. In order to make sure that you don't unnecessarily push the wave too quickly, you want to make sure that you use Urgot's legs in the corner so that you continuously auto-attack at the angle where the leg does not push the wave. One of the most overlooked mechanics on Urgot is his E, Disdain. Urgot stands still and then dashes towards someone, flipping them back. It's a somewhat slow dash and can be fairly easily sidestepped, but you can flash in the middle of this ability similar to a Lee Sin kick. One of the coolest things to do on Lee Sin is to flash while you're in the middle of the animation of Lee Sin's ultimate kick. The animation for the kick itself will begin, but the enemy will end up behind you if you flash at the right time. It is a very similar situation with Urgot's E. If you flash at the right time, not only do you increase its range by an insane amount, you also guarantee your ultimate.
You go for trades with Urgot when you're level 9 at least. At level 9 you get a huge power spike because your W is permanently on. I'm looking for 1v1s.
Here's the reason that he so prioritizes level 9. When you hit level 9, you're able to max your W. Once W is maxed, it no longer has a mana cost and it no longer has a cooldown. It is now a toggle ability. Every single Urgot main maxes this ability first, but they don't actually understand why you're supposed to max this ability first. In order to understand how Kamon is able to deal so much more damage than other Urgot players, we have to take a closer look at the W ability Purge. When Purge is active, Urgot no longer manually auto-attacks. He automatically auto-attacks the nearest target and essentially triples his attack speed. However, each one of his attacks is 1/3 of the regular damage. Now, the reason that this is so useful is because it's much easier to proc your legs when you have something like Purge on. You're able to move around a lot easier and you're able to get more individual attacks. Each attack that comes from Purge does count as an auto attack. It applies auto attack effects, it applies on hit effects, it applies lifesteal. The one thing that it does not count towards is Urgot's own auto attack timer. Here's what that means. Urgot has a fixed auto attack timer. It is not very fast and it's nothing special. However, each one of his regular auto attacks deals max damage, or about 3 times as much damage as a regular Purge tick. But because Purge doesn't actually affect his auto attack timer, you're able to auto attack and use Purge. So essentially, in order to maximize your damage output, you auto attack, use 3 ticks of your Purge, auto attack, 3 ticks, auto attack, 3 ticks, auto attack, 3 ticks. It essentially triples the damage that you do on your 4th hit every single time, and it is a unique mechanic that is only used by a select few Urgot players.
I mean, there's like 3 people on Earth who know that, so there's like me, another Korean Urgot OTP, and like one more guy who do that. Every other guy just presses W and just waits. Legit, it's like 60% more damage, like legit.
Now, is this trick easy to do? In a 1v1, it is not so hard. However, in a team fight where different spells and different things are being thrown around, it is a lot harder to track all the abilities. If this trick is not done effectively and correctly, you actually miss out on damage because your W is off. While it does take practice and skill to be able to do it effectively, there is zero downside to doing this trick because it always increases your maximum damage output.
So a lot of people underestimate Urgot. Urgot spikes with 2 items extremely hard, and then it just gets better and better. After 4th item, it's just like legit, he's worth 2 champions. Let's say we are in mid game. I'm level 13 against a level 11 ADC. The basic combo is E flash, ult backwards, W, and then just go around as fast as possible. If they get away with flash or something, then you chase with Q, but only then. You can't really squeeze a Q before that because it will just ruin your damage.
While Urgot is very good at 1v1s and 1v2s, he can't actually force them very well. When you get a lead on Urgot, the way you extend that lead is different than most top lane champions. If you're playing oppressive bruisers like Darius, oftentimes you can go for dives. If you're playing ranged champions like Quinn, you can go for plates to get more gold. Urgot is not a bruiser that is very good at diving, nor does he have enough range to be able to safely take down towers.
In the mid game, I try to farm as much as possible. So Urgot is exceptionally good at taking down jungle camps. So I try to heal every jungle camp I can from my jungler, from the enemy jungler. Because Urgot is the champion that scales with level, which means I'm not really joining my team in skirmishes for Drakes or Herald. I'm not really looking for roams, so I'm just in my lane trying to push out as hard as possible, go back, take jungle camps, and repeat all the time until I'm level 13. Level 13 is a threshold I try to reach every game. Whenever I reach that level, I'm looking for 1v1s. Urgot is a good fighter, but he's terrible at forcing fights. You want to play reactive fights with Urgot.
Urgot is essentially the attack damage version of Mordekaiser. You're a fortress that duels people and smashes them in 1v1s. However, you don't have great tools to be able to commit and start those 1v1s. By taking jungle camps and frustrating the enemy jungler, you are prompting him to gank you and force these 1v2s. This is the main reason that W gets max first in every single one of Kamon's games. Even in poor matchups where he needs more lane presence, he will put 3 points into his Q and then max his W immediately after. You need to be able to get to this point of Urgot as quickly as possible.
I take press the attack 8 of 10 times on average, I would say. Conqueror, I would only take if the enemy has 3 melees and one of them is a tank, at least. Quite easy to proc press the attack on ranged targets, and extremely hard to proc Conqueror on ranged targets because they will never really let you in range for that long, and that's why press the attack is just better most of the time.
For your build, start either Corrupting Potion, D-Blade, or Longsword with Refillable. Corrupting Potion is taken in a majority of your matches. D-Blade can be taken in a matchup where you think you're going to be auto-attacking the enemy champion a lot. And Longsword is a good option if you want to buy an early Executioner's Calling. For your first back, if you take a Cheetah Recall, Cull is always a good option. If you're ahead and looking to snowball more, Phage is the first best item that you should be buying. If you're falling behind, you can go for a completed boot option to be able to survive a little bit better. Black Cleaver should be your first priority item. For your core build, Black Cleaver and Death Stance are a must-have on Urgot. Urgot's damage primarily comes from his passive, and you will deal more damage by shredding armor and surviving longer to be able to get more legs off. For your late game options, you have a few choices based on the enemy team composition. GA is always a great option for any bruiser. Spirit Visage or Maw against AP heavy comps. Thornmail is great against AD comps. Mortal Reminder if you want a little bit more armor shred. And Zeke's Convergence if you're snowballing. Many normal Urgot players like to buy Frozen Mallet. Kamon notoriously hates this item. Zeke's Convergence, though considered a little bit troll, is actually a perfect fit for Urgot. Not only does it give him tanky stats and resistances, the slowing field that is applied in an area of effect is a similar effect as Frozen Mallet. The most effective part of Frozen Mallet for Urgot is the passive ability. So Zeke's Convergence essentially replaces that at a cheaper cost.
Falling behind with Urgot is a terrible feeling, especially with meta top laners like Aatrox, Fiora. They will just snowball you. It's really hard to get back. Stick to a game plan, farm as many resources as possible. I mean, even if you're behind, you just one-shot camps. After you do that, you can't really push out because you will just die. Urgot is a champion that can only get ahead with jungle pressure, especially in laning phase. When your jungler can just shadow you, it's fine if he doesn't gank you. You can finally push out these waves, go base, buy items. That's so important. And a lot of junglers just don't see the possibility of hitting E-Flash. He just doesn't know what my champion does. No one in high elo does. I'm just begging for a gank. I can flash E on that guy and we just kill him, right? Then he eventually comes, we kill him, and I just win the game solo. Urgot does get snowballed really easily, but he snowballs so hard as well. It's just coin flip every game. My name is Kamon. Check out my stream at twitch.tv/lolkamon. Thank you for watching the video and see you soon.